If you are over 60, I want to ask one small thing of you before we begin. Hold out your hands and look at them a moment. They are cold, are they not, even when the house is warm? Your feet turn to ice at night, tucked under the quilt with wool socks on, and still they will not warm through. Your legs feel heavy by supper time. Your fingers tingle of a sudden, and you get that strange feeling that the blood just does not reach the far corners of you the way it once did. And as if all of that were not enough, there is somebody in your life, a grown son, a doctor in too much of a hurry, a well-meaning neighbor over the fence, who has told you to give up your coffee because at your age it is hard on the heart. Well, you stay right here with me, because what I am going to tell you over these next few minutes goes square against everything they have been repeating in your ear for years. There is a detail about black coffee and your circulation that most older folks have never once heard, that no doctor has the time to explain in a 10-minute visit, and that can be the whole difference between arteries that grow old in a hurry and arteries that stay young and open and clean for many a year more. And I will tell you something now that may surprise you. It is not only the sugar. Everybody talks about the sugar, and the sugar matters. Of course it matters. But there are 3 or 4 other things you do every single morning with your cup, out of pure habit, without a thought, that decide whether that cup is guarding your blood or punishing it. And almost nobody tells you about a one of them. If you stay with me to the end, you are going to understand why it is very likely you have been taking your coffee the wrong way for years with no idea you were doing it, and how simple it is to set right, starting tomorrow morning. You do not have to give anything up. You only have to understand it. Now, let me tell you who is speaking to you. My name is Anna, though just about everybody in our settlement calls me Mammy Anna, which is our old word for grandmother. I am Amish. I was born and raised plain, out in the rolling farm country of Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, where the buggies still clip down the road of a morning and the wash still hangs on the line to dry in the wind. And I am 108 years old. A kind young neighbor helps carry my words out to you through this little screen, for I never did learn the machines myself, but the words and the knowing, those are mine. For more than 70 years, I was the woman they came to in our community, the herb woman, the one who kept the teas steeping on the back of the wood stove, who sat up with the sick and the laboring and the dying, who knew which root was for what and which leaf to leave well alone. We call that old way of doctoring braucherei, and I learned it at my own grandmother's knee the way she learned it at hers, going back further than anybody can count. I have buried a husband and outlived most every soul I started this long road with. And I will confess something to you right at the start. I have not given up my coffee. I take it every blessed morning, black, no sugar, strong enough near to stand a spoon in. And of an afternoon, now and again, I take a little more. I drink it slow, and I drink it without 1 ounce of guilt, because I know what the truth of it is, not the foolishness that was preached 40 years ago and that so many still parrot out of plain habit, but what the careful folk who study these things have come to learn since. All through those years of tending my people, there was a thing that happened over and over. Somebody would come to the door worn down and worried, and before they would even say what ailed them, they would lower their voice like they were confessing a sin and ask me, "Anna, can I still have my coffee?" Shy about it, half ashamed, as though they were begging leave to do something wicked. And it would near break my heart, because behind that little question, there was so often a person who had had one of the few small pleasures left to them in a day taken clean away, for no good reason on this earth. So many folks asked me, over so many years, how on earth I kept all of it in my head, the teas, the timings, the old remedies, the way of eating and moving and resting that carries a body well past their 70. Anna, they would say, could you not write it down somewhere so a person could keep it close? And after I had heard it enough times, I sat myself down and I gathered it all together. The Amish remedies my grandmother gave me and her grandmother gave her. The simple movements that wake the blood up in tired legs. The plain, nourishing recipes off our own table. The way we settle ourselves for sleep, the way we rise with the light, the small daily habits that, taken all together, are the real secret to growing old with strength in you instead of just years on you. I put the whole of it into one plain, orderly guide, easy to follow, because I got weary of watching good people lose their health for the simple want of clear knowing. And I will be honest with you, plain as I can, if your circulation feels weak, if your hands are cold and your legs are heavy, and you carry a tiredness you cannot account for, it is not only the coffee. The coffee is one piece. Your circulation is cared for by the whole of what you do each day, and that is just why this guide is worth having, for it gathers every piece into one place. You will find it in the link down below in the description and in the comment I have pinned right up at the top. Have a look at it. It may change your days more than you would think. And now let us get to the heart of it. For you to follow everything that comes after, I need you to understand one thing that is hardly ever explained right. Your circulation past 60 does not work the way it worked at 40. That is not me being gloomy, that is me being honest, and understanding it is the only road to caring for it well. As the years pass, the arteries lose some of their give. They grow stiffer, like a length of rubber that has sat too long out in the sun. And running all along the inside of every artery and every vein in your whole body, there is a lining of cells so thin it is finer than the skin of an onion. The learned folk call it the endothelium. You hold on to that word, endothelium, for it is the quiet little master of your whole circulation. Think of the inside of a pipe. When the pipe runs smooth and clean, the water flows free and easy. When the pipe starts to crust over and silt up inside, the water snags and slows and the pressure builds, and at the last it plugs up altogether. That thin lining is the smooth inside of your pipes, and it is the very thing that decides, day by day, whether your blood runs free or whether the fat and the lime and the grime start sticking to the walls and building up into those clumps that close an artery over the years. Now here is the part that matters. That lining is not a dead skin in a dead pipe. It is alive, busy, working. It makes a substance. The cleverest among them is one they call nitric oxide, and that substance is what tells the artery to loosen and open wide so the blood can pass easy. When you have plenty of it, the arteries open, the pressure eases, the hands and the feet go warm. When you run short of it, the arteries clamp down, the blood labors, and there come your cold hands, your heavy legs, your blood pressure climbing. And once a body is past 60, that lining makes less and less of the good substance on its own. That is just why you feel things now you never used to feel. So now, hold on to your hat, because here is where the coffee comes in. The first thing your black coffee does, and the thing hardly a soul has told you, is exactly to that lining and that good substance it makes. Coffee is not dirty water with a kick in it, the way folks like to think. One single cup holds more than 1,000 different compounds, and among them is one especially precious to your arteries, a thing they call chlorogenic acid. It is one of those good protective compounds, kin to the ones in olive oil and in cocoa and in the skin of a grape, and coffee is just about the richest source of it in the whole of what most people eat. And the careful studies have found over and again that these compounds help that thin lining make and use its nitric oxide better. And nitric oxide, you will remember, is the very thing that opens the artery. One big review that gathered up better than 20 studies found that coffee improved the working of that lining in most of them. And it goes further still. They have found in healthy folk that a single cup can better the workings of the tiniest little vessels of all, the ones fine as a hair that carry blood out to the farthest corners of you. And where are those corners? The tips of your fingers, the tips of your toes, the kidneys, the very back of the eye, which is to say, exactly the places an older body feels, the circulation faltering first, the cold hands, the icy feet, the eyes that tire, the kidneys that no longer strain the way they once did. And here is what changes after 60, and I want you to take it to heart, because your lining is already weakened by the years. Any help you give it counts for that much more. It is like watering a plant. A plant in good health is glad of the water. A plant gone limp and wilting needs it. The older person is just exactly the one with the most to gain from the good in the coffee and the most to lose by ruining it with poor habits. Let me tell you of Sadie, a widow woman in our settlement, near 80, one of those who never complained of a thing. Her daughter all but dragged her to my door. Her hands and feet were so cold she slept in 2 pairs of socks clear into August, and she would wake with her fingers gone white and stiff. Now, Sadie took coffee, yes, but a coffee that had precious little coffee left in it, for she spooned in 3 heaping spoons of sugar to the cup and took 4 cups a day. I asked her, gentle, to let the sugar go a little at a time, and to let the coffee work for her instead of against her. That was not the only thing we changed. I will not fib to you. But some months on, she came by and sat at my table and told me, with that little dry smile, Anna, I put the August socks away. And that stayed with me, for sometimes health is not in some new pill at all. It is in looking with fresh eyes at a thing we have been doing wrong our whole lives long. If what I am telling you is doing you any good, do this old woman one small kindness that helps me more than you know. Give this a thumbs up right now, and subscribe to the channel if you have not yet, for here I bring you, every week, plain sense rooted in what the careful folk have truly learned, made for those of us past 60, with no fear-mongering and no foolishness, and ring the little bell so none of it slips past you. Now the second thing, and this answers the worry I heard most of all. Anna, they would say, but coffee raises my blood pressure, does it not? And here I must be very careful, for there is a great misunderstanding loose in the world. It is true that if a person who never touches coffee drinks down a cup, the pressure may climb a little for the next few hours. That much is real. But, and this little word changes the whole of it, in the person who takes coffee regular, that effect all but vanishes. The body grows used to it in a matter of days. It is like a man who tastes hot peppers for the first time and thinks he will surely die, and by the 10th time does not so much as blink. The big long studies bear it out. A great many people followed for years, showed no rise in their blood pressure over the long haul from their daily coffee, and one large gathering of the studies found that those who drank the most coffee had, if anything, a touch less risk of high pressure. Less, mind you, not more. But here comes the new wrinkle, the one almost nobody troubles to explain, and it is the very thing this whole talk is about. There is a thing that truly can make your coffee trouble your blood pressure and your heart, and it is not the coffee. It is the hour you drink it. If you are like so many older folk and you take a cup of an afternoon or after your supper, you are putting that kick into your body at an hour when you will not be rid of it in time. It takes a good 5 or 6 hours to clear your blood, and at our age, with the body grown slower at the work, that 4 o'clock cup is still wandering around inside you at 11 at night. It robs you of your deep sleep. It sets you tossing and turning. And here is the thing. Folks never connect sleeping poorly, wears down your circulation. Sleep is when your arteries rest, when the pressure falls of its own accord, when the body mends itself. An older person who sleeps badly night after night carries their pressure worse and their arteries more battered, sugar in the cup or no. So the first little trick is simple as can be. Take your coffee in the morning, on into midday, and come 3 or 4 in the afternoon, you let it be. For the great many of you with normal or steady pressure, your morning black coffee is not the villain they spent years painting it to be. Now, if your pressure runs high and untamed, or you have a fluttering heart, then the talk with your own doctor comes before one word out of my mouth. Every person is their own creation. The third thing is a favorite of mine, for it goes against another great myth, the notion that coffee dries you out, leaches the water right from you. How many times have you heard that coffee does not count, that it pulls water out instead of putting it in? Now you listen, for this bears straight on your circulation. It is true the kick in coffee makes you pass a little more water, but in the person who drinks it regular, that effect is so slight that the liquid in the cup itself more than makes up for it. Your morning coffee, counted in plain water, adds to you. It does not take, and that matters dearly at our age, and I will tell you why. As the years come on, the feeling of thirst dims down. Older folks simply do not feel thirsty, even when the body wants the water as bad as ever or worse. And when a body drinks too little, the blood goes thick and sluggish. It labors to move through those hair-fine vessels in the hands and feet, it creeps along, and the danger of a clot forming goes up. Thick blood is no friend to good circulation. So that cup of a morning gives you not only the good compounds, but a little water besides, to a body that very likely drinks less than it ought. Mind me, now I am not saying coffee stands in for water. It is a help, not a substitute. You keep drinking your plain water through the day, thirsty or not, especially in the summer heat. But put clear out of your head the notion that coffee dries you out, for taken with sense, it is just the other way around. And tell me a thing in the comments, for I do love to read them. Write me what town or what stretch of country you are watching me from. And tell me this too. Did you take your coffee with guilt, sure you were doing yourself harm? Or did you always know in your bones that that little spell with the cup did you good? It helps me to know you, and it comforts other folk to see they are not alone in it. Now the fourth thing, and to my mind this is the most important of the lot, the one I would most love to see lodge in your memory, for it touches the very thing we dread most at this age, the stroke, that blow that changes a whole family's life from one day to the next. The circulation of the brain is the most delicate we own. The brain drinks a great deal of blood and air, and it leans on vessels fine as thread that the years and the high pressure wear down. When one of those plugs or bursts, that is the stroke. Well, several great, careful studies that followed hundreds of thousands of souls for years have turned up something worth knowing. Folks who take their coffee in moderation have, on the average, a touch less risk of a stroke than those who take none at all. A touch less, going clean against what so many believe, and the thinking is that it comes of all the things I have already laid before you. The coffee guards that thin lining, helps the good substance, cools the slow burn in the artery walls, and lowers the risk of sugar sickness, which is one of the great destroyers of the brain's little vessels. But I will ask one thing of you, for honesty is sacred to me. The word that matters is moderate. These goods come with a sensible few cups in the day. It is not that more coffee means more guarding, it does not run that way at all. Take too much, and you buy yourself the jitters, a racing heart, sleepless nights, and then your remedy has turned into your trouble. The virtue sits in the middle of the road, as it does with most things in this life, and I say so as one who has walked a long stretch of it. Let me tell you of Eli, a man of our church near 70, one of those big, quiet fellows with hands like spades and few words in him. He came to me after a fright, a dizziness, a strange pins and needles down one side that passed off on its own, and a doctor at the clinic warning him his arteries were not in good order. When I asked after his habits, he confessed he had given up his coffee 2 years back. For, he said, my son-in-law told me at my age the stuff is poison. And all the while, mind you, he was still smoking his pipe, sleeping like a man on a stony field, and not drinking a drop of water the whole day through. I told him, kind as I could, that he had picked a fight with the wrong enemy. That coffee, taken black and in moderation, by what we know today, may well be a friend to his blood while the tobacco, and the thick, sluggish blood from never drinking, and the wretched sleep, those were his true troubles. He looked at me as though I had spoken in tongues. But Anna, he said, everybody told me to quit it, and I told him what I am telling you now. The knowing has come a long way in these years, and what we understand today is not what they were preaching 2 decades back. Eli went back to his morning cup after he gave me his word he would tend to what truly mattered. For sometimes the kindest news a healer can hand a person is that a thing they love was never their enemy at all. Now the 5th thing took even me by surprise when I first set myself to learn it proper, and it is a mistake so common and so quiet that countless older folk make it without the least idea. It has to do with coffee and the iron in your blood. Your blood needs iron to build the red cells that carry the air all through you. When a person runs short of iron, there comes the anemia, and with it the weariness, the breathlessness at the smallest effort, the paleness that I have no strength for anything, feeling that very feeling of weak circulation. Anemia is common as dirt in older folk, far more than people reckon. Well, those same good compounds in the coffee have an effect hardly anybody knows of. When you take your coffee right on top of a meal, they make it harder for the body to take up the iron from your food, most of all the iron in your greens, your beans, your grains. So you eat your good plate of beans or your spinach full of iron, and if you finish it off with a cup of coffee, you leave a fair share of that iron behind. And in an older body already leaning toward anemia, day after day, year after year, that can be one of the hidden reasons behind a tiredness no one can account for. And the fix? Simple as anything. and it costs you nothing you care about. Do not take your coffee jammed right up against your meal. Let an hour and a half, go by between the last bite and the first sip. That way you enjoy your coffee in peace, and you let the body take up first the iron it needs to keep your blood rich and your strength up. I tell you true, I scarcely saw this one in all my years of tending folk, and it changed the life of more than one weary soul. And while we are speaking of not taking coffee right on top of things, let me give you one more warning. The old healers never had to think of, but you surely must, your pills. Past 60, near all of us take some medicine, and it happens that coffee can muddle the way the body takes up a few of the very common ones. If you take the thyroid pill, the one you are meant to swallow on an empty stomach, and you wash it down with your morning coffee, you are cutting back how much of the medicine your body actually gets. The same goes for some of the bone medicines, the ones for thinning bones, that want plain water and a good stretch of time before anything else passes your lips, coffee and all. This does not mean give up the one or the other. It means part them in time. Take your pill on an empty stomach with a glass of water, wait a good half hour or 3/4, and then sit down to your coffee in peace. It is only a matter of the clock, but it can be the whole difference between your medicine working full or working half. And if you take a pill for your pressure or your heart, do not go mixing it blind with great quantities of coffee without a word to your doctor. Ask how to lay out your day. These little things that look like nothing are the very things that part the person who truly cares for themselves from the person who only believes they do. And every bit of it, the timings, the gentle movements, the teas, the order of a good day, I have gathered and laid out plain in the guide in the link below. Now we come to the part that ties the whole bundle together, and where so many good folk get themselves in a tangle. The coffee is not drunk on its own. It is drunk in 100 ways, and the way matters every bit as much as the coffee. So let us go through it, for here lies the line between the cup that tends you and the cup that wears you down. First, the sugar, for I cannot pass it by. Coffee on its own is one of the great treasures of good compounds in your whole diet. But when you spoon in the sugar, it is not that the good simply leaves it, is that you have put in something that works against you with a will. Sugar lights a slow fire in the arteries, sends your blood sugar spiking, and in the long run breeds that resistance to insulin that punishes the vessels so. It is like swallowing a medicine to cool a fire and eating a thing that feeds it in the same breath. The two cancel out. And if you have spent decades putting 2 or 3 spoons in each of 3 or 4 cups a day, you reckon up the heap of sugar marching into your blood, all the while thinking, in good faith, you are taking something healthful. One man I tended put it best, Anna. He said, I thought I was drinking coffee, and it turns out I was drinking sugar that tasted of coffee. If you cannot drop it all at once, no matter. Take out half a spoon a week, no hurry. In a month you will be drinking it black, and I promise you, you will discover a taste you had been smothering for years. Second, mind what hides in the little packets in the modern pods, your instant powders, your 2-in-1, 3-in-1, your coffees flavored with caramel and vanilla, your creamers that are advertised so sweet and rich. They are loaded to the brim with sugar and poor fats. Read the back of the package. If the sugar sits near the top of the list, that is no coffee. That is a dessert in a disguise. Real coffee is coffee and water. That is all. Third, and here is one few folk know how you brew, it counts for your arteries too. Now I will speak right to my own people here, for there is no coffee on this earth like Amish church coffee, brewed up by the gallon in a great pot on the stove, boiled and strong and never strained through a paper. I have drunk a sea of it in my long life. But here is the truth of it. Coffee that is boiled and taken unfiltered holds certain natural oils that, taken in plenty, can nudge up the bad cholesterol. The good news is that a plain paper filter catches the most of it, so coffee drip brewed through a paper filter is a fine thing for the heart, and so is the pod machine and the pressed espresso. The one to go easy on is that grand, old, boiled, unstrained pot, especially if your cholesterol already runs high. I am not telling you to forsake the church coffee. I am telling you to know what it is, and to lean on the filtered cup at home. Fourth, the heat, and this point hardly a soul will tell you, and it is dear. Are you one who takes your coffee scalding, near to burning your mouth? Then you hear me well, for the careful folk who watch over the world's health have warned that very hot drinks, hotter than about 150 degrees, go along with a greater risk of trouble in the gullet, that tube that joins your throat to your stomach. It is not the coffee itself, it is the heat scorching that tender lining, over and over, year upon year, and the fix could not be freer or easier. Let your coffee sit a couple of minutes before you take it. Let it be hot and good, but not afire. Your gullet will thank you for many a year. And fifth and last, coffee works no miracle on its own, and it would be a falsehood for me to tell you otherwise. Black coffee, taken at a good hour, kept clear of your meals, not overdone, and not scalding, is a fine piece of a far bigger puzzle. But it is one piece. Your circulation is tended by moving every day, even if it is only a walk down the lane, by drinking your water, thirsty or not, by eating more from the garden and the field, more greens, more beans, more fish, and less of the boxed and the processed, by sleeping well, by leaving off the things that truly do harm, like the tobacco. And here, child, is where I will tell you the deepest part of the Amish secret, the part that is bigger than any cup. When the learned doctors came out to study my people over the years, and they did come, with their clipboards and their machines, they found things that astonished them. They strapped little counters to our farmers and found the men walked 18,000 steps in a day and more, and that for all the hearty food off our tables, hardly a one of us went stout, for we never sat still long enough to. And among certain of our families they found rare little quirks in the blood itself, passed down the generations, that kept the heart's vessels cleaner and stretched a life out longer than common. Now, I will not tell you a fib and say the coffee did that. It did not. The coffee was only ever sitting beside the real medicine, and the real medicine was the life around it. We rise with the light, not against it. We work our bodies hard in the open air. We eat what we grew and what we put up in the cellar, not what came out of a factory. We do not race the clock through breakfast. We sit, we are still, we are grateful, we let the morning be slow. That cup of coffee, in our way of living, is not a thing snatched on the run. It is a small, still center to a well-built day. And that, more than any single compound in any single cup, is what keeps a body's blood running clean past 60, past 80, past 100 and more, if the Lord wills it. The coffee walks alongside. It does not carry you. The carrying is done by the whole of how you live, and that is just why I keep pressing on you about that guide, where I gathered every bit of it together, the habits and the gentle leg movements and the simple recipes and the way to a good night's rest, all of it set down for this very season of life. It is in the link below in the description and in the pinned comment up at the top. Do not let the chance pass to have the whole of it in one plain place. I want to close with something that comes straight up out of my old heart. Whether you are plain like me or not, The cup of coffee is hardly ever only a drink. It is the breakfast with the newspaper. It is the warm mug held in two cold hands while you watch the day come up over the field. It is the reason to sit a spell with a neighbor. It is the pause that steadies you, the small thing that gives the morning its shape. And it fills me with gladness to be able to tell you, not out of guessing, but out of what the careful folk truly know today, that this dear old habit, done the right way, black, kept clear of your meals, taken at a good hour and not a fire, can be a true and faithful friend to your circulation and to your heart. So the next time you fix your cup, you fix it slow and you drink it without guilt, without that little fear that you are doing your heart a harm. You drink it knowing that, done right, you are tending yourself. And if you know a soul who gave up their coffee because somebody told them it was bad for them, and who quietly misses that little spell, that taste, that habit of a lifetime, or if you know somebody who pours mountains of sugar into theirs each morning with no notion of what it is doing to them inside, you share this with that person right now. A thing as small as sharing can hand someone back a pleasure that was taken from them for no cause, or nudge them toward a simple change that will guard their arteries for years. And before I take my leave, one last thing, and I say it with all the plain honesty of an old woman who tended folk the better part of a century. Everything I have laid before you today rests on what the careful folk understand as best they can today. But it is general knowing, not a word of doctoring meant for you and your own self. I do not know you. I do not know what medicine you take, what your pressure runs, what your last bit of blood work said. So before you go changing anything that matters most of all, if your pressure runs high and untamed, if your heart flutters, if you take medicine, you sit down and you talk it over with your own doctor, the one who knows you and has your story before them. Use the good head the Lord gave you and use plain common sense, for that is what it is there for. I am Anna, and from the green hills of Lancaster County I send you a great warm embrace. Take your black coffee slow, and take it with gladness. Tend your circulation, tend your heart, and tend the ones you love. Much health to you, and we will meet again in the next one.